Hi, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the End the Celts Podcast. I hope everyone is keeping well who's listening. It's a big welcome back to the show for Ross. He was on a previous show that went down a storm for everybody who listened. How are you, Ross?
I'm good, Stephen. Thanks. Yourself?
I'm fine, mate. Thanks for asking. And we also have a very special guest, Natasha. Natasha is a regular on A Celtic State of Mind, and she does some brilliant work over there along with the other folks. I think they do a fantastic job over there. How are you, Natasha?
I'm great, thank you. It's great to be on. I'm looking forward to it.
No, we're thrilled to have you on, Natasha. Thanks for coming on and agreeing to it. It's brilliant.
No problem.
But we'll move on to the first topic that's burning a hole in everyone's mouths with Celtic fans anyway. The topic of Roy Keane. Now, he's been linked with the Celtic manager's role, and we've all put stuff up on Twitter, and big debates have happened, especially on Instagram when I put them up, and there's people saying yes because of his passion, and people saying no because of the way he manages is a bit like Neil Lennon. And personally, from my point of view, before throw it to yourselves, I personally think that I said he's just a Neil Lennon upgraded version in terms of name. He manages the exact same way. His win percentage as a manager is below 40%, which to be even considered for a Celtic job, in my opinion, is a disgrace. And yes, he's a big name within world football, and especially over in Ireland. He's a well-known name, probably the most famous player to come from Ireland. But Natasha, what's your opinion on Roy Keane?
I think I have to agree with you. And to be honest, I think the rumours are probably more media-based. I don't think anyone who's actually in the running would be commenting on it, as I don't think you'd comment on what I would hope to be our live discussions. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Roy Keane, but I don't think he's the right man for the job at this current moment. I mean, putting his managerial record to one side that you've already highlighted, that on its own should see him out of the running. But his style, in particular for me, his man management style, like you've touched on, is very likely to be similar to Lennon's. And we've seen that doesn't work. Like you said, people have talked about needing a man like Keane to fire up a squad which has looked lethargic all season. But for me, that's not going to work. That style doesn't seem to be working anymore. It's old school. It doesn't work with modern players. And if it did, it would have succeeded for Lennon. But we talk about this modern player, and they don't respond to old school managers. I know that Keane was offered the role back in 2014, and maybe he regrets not taking it. But he might have been the man for the job then. But for me, he isn't the man for the job now. The squad we had at the time in 2014, he could have been the man for that squad, but he's not the man for this job right now.
No, you're 100% right. Another thing that sticks in my mind as well, when he actually joined Celtic as a player, I think his quote was "Welcome to hell" when he went into his first training session. Just basically already disrespecting the club he signed for in terms of the standard in the league. And it almost smacks to me that it's a bit of Roy Keane just trying to get himself back into the management side of football, and he thinks his connection with Desmond and the Irish connection is going to get him in with Celtic. But Ross, I'll go to you with this one. What's your feeling towards the whole Roy Keane saga at the moment?
I mean, just kind of echo just what you guys have said, really. I mean, I took the liberty of making a wee pros and cons list, just to see how it would. But I mean, to start with the cons, I mean, just what you have said, I think he'd bring unrest, total division. As Natasha said, it'd be far too bullish for the modern day player. He pretty much is Lennon, but with a bit bigger clout in the game, really. But I mean, his pros that I came up with were his press conferences and interviews would be hilarious. That's it. There's nothing else. For Celtic right now, and in fact any club in general, I think in this day and age, I think Roy Keane is wrong. He's no the right guy. You see him and he's like in his position in Sky Sports, he's very dry, which is funny and it's quite entertaining, and he's a very good pundit, I would say. But as for a guy in a dressing room trying to get Celtic back to where they are, he's absolutely no way the guy that should be getting the job. And as Natasha said as well, I don't think that he's been offered the job. He's just threw his name into the ring, and the hope that he might get it, because he's not going to, like Lennon now, Lennon will never get another big job, and I don't think Keane will probably get another job as a manager in football. He might be a number two with somebody to try and calm him down like Martin O'Neill did, but no for Celtic, definitely not. It just wouldn't end well.
I 100% correct. I think as well, every club he's been at, even in the Ireland team as the assistant manager, he's had conflict with players. And you've seen at the start of the season when Lennon came out and said after the European match that there's players that don't want to be there. Straight after that comment, the players just kind of down tools. They just kind of threw it away. And it's like you can see that, yeah, the pros would be, yes, he's going to be passionate, he's going to be full of fire, and he claims to be a Celtic man. But in reality, I don't think he is. He's playing to the whole Irish connection. He's playing to the whole brigade in terms of, yes, get him on board. He's a proper Celtic man. He'll bring the fire back. But we thought that about Lenny, especially in his first spell. Yes, he did bring the thunder back to a certain extent. But you seen what happened, as Natasha, you rightly touched upon, the modern day player, the likes of Christie, the likes of Edward, they won't react to shouting or getting told that this is wrong, that's wrong, what you're doing, you can't do. They'll just look at him and be like, who do you think you're talking to? No matter what kind of name he has in the football game. Natasha, touching upon the management speculation, we've seen lots of names. And I think I seen today that you said on your Twitter page that you'd be happy with Enzo Maresca for Manchester City coming up. Is that something that you think that Celtic are going down that road? Because we've seen Fergal Harkins, he seems to be nailed on now for the director of football role. That's a lot of rumours going around at the moment. But is that something you would settle for, Natasha?
Yeah, for me it works. If I'm looking at the list of potential targets that we've got, or, they're booking and fan-made, I suppose. We don't know who the club's real potential targets are. But if we're looking at the list of favourites and the odds on them, there's not a great deal I would put into the category of realistic and that I would want. If we are going to aim high, if we're looking at, Martinez and Benitez and how, to be honest, for me, I think they're way at the top of the tree. And maybe if we've asked the question, fine, but I think we're now maybe coming down a couple of branches. And the Harkin and Maresca sort of combination is one that interests me. It is. I think we're likely to move to appointing a director of football first. And if that is indeed going to be Fergal Harkin, I think that could point to Maresca coming in some sort of head coach role. And yeah, like I've touched upon on my Twitter page and on a couple of shows before, I would take that, to be honest. I think it is what we need right now. You look at the sort of modern European clubs and they are moving towards a more director of football role with a coach working underneath them. And, we can get into it further, but looking at the pedigree of Harkin and Maresca, I think it's probably well aligned with what we're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it as well, Natasha, you're 100% right. The modern day football structure usually is director of footballs, the technical directors, chief scout, and then it goes all the way down to the coach, not manager anymore. They call them coaches now, head coaches.
Yeah.
But the way I'm looking at it, Ross, I don't know how you feel about it. I don't think Enzo Maresca, I know I'm saying that name wrong, but it's how I'm pronouncing it. Enzo Maresca. I personally don't think that he's going to do enough to bring them season tickets back. And even if you look at that, I know it's Manchester City under 23 team, they're flying at the moment. The one, I think it was 5-0 or 6-0 if I'm correct there in the recent game. So there's definitely the way coaches must be attacking and must be full of flair play. But we look at Eddie Howe, and I've said it before, I think as time goes by, we've lost him. He should have been announced ages ago. He should have been brought in the door and told, look, this is your objectives. This is a squad you've got until the summer. Tell us who you don't want and we'll replace them. Where now it's like all these players, as rightly Paul John Dyke said on the Celtic State of Mind, there's nearly 18 players that could leave. And where's that rebuild going to happen from? Ross, what's your opinion on the whole Fergal Harkin, Enzo Maresca situation?
Well, to be honest, I didn't know much about what actually a director of football entailed until we had David Webb on the podcast last week, and I learned quite a bit off of him. I'm certainly a lot more open to that idea now that I know a bit more about it. As regards Fergal Harkin, again, I've done a wee bit of reading up on him, but I don't know too much. But I know what Natasha's saying there, like, if we were to get Fergal Harkin in, then Maresca or Maresca, whatever his name is, I think probably could. Well, if he came in alongside him, it would be sort of seamless move for they two, as in their working relationship together. But personally, I would be quite happy for Harkin to come in, based on what I've read about him. Obviously, he's doing a job at Man City where he's working more with the youth, overseeing things, like guys going out on loan and stuff, finding the right clubs for them to develop. So, and he's overseen guys like Zinchenko, who's now a first-team player. But, I mean, absolutely, I would be happy for Fergal Harkins to come in, but I think that the manager needs to be a bigger name than the director of football. Maresca doesn't excite me, to be honest with you. Okay, he could probably bring like some quite good youth for Man City, but the chances are it would probably mostly be loans, and right now I don't think loans is what Celtic need. I think they need a bigger name manager than Maresca. But I mean, I don't know enough about him. Maybe he's a tactical genius and we don't know. But I mean, Arteta's doing all right at Arsenal, but you've got to give people a chance. You know what I mean? They've got to have a first time somewhere. But I think right now, I think Celtic need like somebody that's been over the course of it and sort of worked with first team players and built a team, and because Celtic are needing a rebuild, there's no doubt about it. They need a rebuild. They're probably going to have to more or less get a new defence in, but I think is Julian. I think Julian might be out to October. He's going to be the only recognised centre back if Ayer goes. So I just think at this moment in time, if Ayer goes and we need to rebuild the whole defence, I think we need somebody with a bit more nous. With the greatest respect to Maresca, because I don't know enough about him, but I think we need somebody with a bit more nous than that to take us on to the next stage.
I think in terms of the name, you're 100% right. For me, Maresca, he doesn't excite me. I know he's been assistant manager to Pellegrini. He's been a top player with Juventus, and now he's working at Manchester City. I also seen the rumour as well that if he comes along with Fergal Harkins, Celtic are also looking at backroom options at Manchester City to come along and do the recruitment analysis and all. I don't want us to be too drawn to this Man City connection, because Celtic are their own club. We don't need to go to a club to ask for favours, for ask for all these technical experts to come in. We should be doing that. We should have building blocks in place. Now, granted, the facilities at Manchester City are world class. Everything's amazing about it, but I just think, I've said it before, it's Celtic Football Club, and you have to ask the question of the guys at the top first. And if they say no, I'm pretty sure there's someone out there a wee bit more experienced than Enzo Maresca at Manchester City. As David Webb rightly touched upon when he said he was working with Eddie Howe, they were singing off the same hymn sheet, and that's what you need. And yes, Fergal Harkin and Maresca could have that relationship, but to me, Celtic need to be looking bigger, and the possibility of losing up to 18 first team players or squad players included in that, it's quite a daunting prospect, especially if we're going to start this rebuild from scratch in terms of players in the summer. Going forward, Natasha, in terms of the recruitment policy, where do you think Celtic are going to be looking this summer? Do you think it's going to be project players, or do you think there'll be big money signings?
Well, I think the market's certainly going to change, as a result of the pandemic and our revenue loss, but also as a result of Brexit as well. Our market isn't the bigger European leagues. We're not taking, players from the top leagues and or the top teams in, Germany, France, Italy. We're not doing that. We are trying to sort of find that more obscure European talent if we are going into that market. And Brexit's going to make that significantly more difficult. So I think going forward, we're going to have to try and adopt a model more focused on talent within the UK and talent within our own youth systems as well. We need better focus on our youth development and a better pathway for the youth players to make it into the first team, because that's something that's really, been lacking at the moment. And for me, I know, just sort of turning back on the point of Harkin and Maresca, I think that they could maybe have the skill set that aligns with that. Maresca is someone who's worked with, the under 23 players of Man City. Those players are ones that who could clearly get into plenty of first teams down south, perhaps not Man City's. And looking at what he's done at Man City as well, I have to thank Boys Analytics on Twitter for some of these stats that I was reading earlier today. But his team are flying. They've got a goal difference of plus 23. The next team below them has a difference of plus 9. He's managed a team who are used to dominating, who have players who probably could outplay a lot of others. They play a similar style to what Celtic are. So So he is coming from something that would be recognisable with a lot of transferable skills there. But I completely get what you guys are saying at the same time. He's an under-23 manager. Yes, he's assisted at Seville and West Ham, but he is an under-23 manager, and it is a big step. And we have a big, big job to do. You just have to look across the city to see when they hired a youth manager, it took him 3 years to achieve anything. And we don't have 3 years. We need to start the pendulum swinging back as soon as possible. So I do accept the point that someone like Maresca is going to come with that risk that he's not ready to get this rebuild underway and to have a team firing and ready to go for, the Champions League qualifiers, which are less than 100 days away. This is coming around fast, and there's a lot of work to be done between now and then.
Yeah, go ahead, Ross.
No, I was just kind of agreeing there. I mean, just when you said like the Champions League qualifiers are less than 100 days away, it's like, wow, yeah, we've had no contact for Celtic to tell us that, like Aberdeen put a tweet out today, like telling the fans that
excellent,
their stuff are in motion for to get a new manager in, but there's been absolutely nothing for Celtic. It's like, it's a simple thing that like everybody can put a tweet out. I mean, I only joined Twitter the other day and I can do it, but Celtic still haven't done it. It's just,
I thought that by Aberdeen was
baffling.
Excellent. It was excellent. It was clear, open communication, explaining exactly what they were doing, the process that they were following, a projected time scale, quick and easy, and a tweet that was a couple of minutes long, a video, perfect. I thought they handled that really well, and it's frustrating when we do the complete opposite and it's radio silence.
We're supposed to be a bigger club.
I know, but the way I see it as well, this is going to be a bit unpopular, but I want to bring it back a few weeks to when Celtic done that fan media press conference. Now, when I first seen it, I thought, fair play, they're engaging with the fans, but looking fast forward again, there's been no communication to tell us anything regarding the club or regarding what way they're going. I personally believe that fan media press conference was just a ploy again to see what the feeling is towards John Kennedy. They're trying to dip him in and out anytime they can to see what support he will get. We know what Celtic are like. We've seen it over the years. They will and try their best to go for the cheaper option instead of spending money on a better manager. We've seen it. And I personally believe the whole fan media press conference, asking questions to Turnbull, asking questions to Kennedy, was just another ploy. Oh, he speaks well, he can do this. But if you even look at the training ground footage, the training they're doing, it's the exact same as what Neil Lennon had them doing. Running around a few cones, doing a few passing drills, and then that's it. And then he brings him onto the pitch and he's doing the same diamond formation. When James Forrest comes back on the pitch, he has him playing at the number 10 role. It's like Neil Lennon again has a grip over that team that's not going to go away, especially with John Kennedy and Gavin Strachan still there. But touching upon the youth academy, Natasha, I'm glad you brought that up. Now, I'm very passionate about the youth academy. I think Celtic should always focus, when they can, on homegrown talent. And what annoys me the most, and fair enough, clubs couldn't afford it, but when they scrapped the reserve league, it just left all these young players in limbo. And if you go back in the years, it didn't do the likes of Sean Maloney, Aidan McGeady, all them types of players that came through in that era in the reserve league. So it was doing some good for Celtic. And as you said, Marchese and Harkin coming in, and maybe they can do that link and make the youth academy kind of sing as well with the Celtic first team, playing the same tactics, doing the same roles, doing the same training. But you made a very good point that I actually wasn't aware of today, Natasha, on the Celtic State of Mind podcast. Marvin Bartley actually said he was surprised at the lack of quality in terms of the Celtic youth players when he played against them. What does that tell you, though, about the youth players we have, Natasha? Are they good enough? Do we have to literally start again?
Yeah, it's concerning because you know what? I think he was quite right. Celtic were renowned for having great youth talent coming through, and you've touched on a couple of them there. You know, when you look at Maloney, you look at McGeady, more recently we've had McGregor or Forrest and Tierney. You know, we have had this string of good youth players coming through, and now following the issue in Dubai, we had to test some of them against Livingston and and beyond, pretty much the full month of January. But what we did see, that far too many of them weren't ready to make that step. In fact, I'd go as far as to say none of them were ready to make that step. Obviously, Stephen Welsh has now come in and had a run of games, and I think he's done absolutely fine. I like him. I think he's good. Outside of that, I'm really not seeing any of them ready to step up and take that next step, which is a big concern to me, because this is the crop of youth that we could field against, various teams in January, then where are we going with that? Who's coming up behind them? I'm concerned.
It is quite concerning. It's concerning, especially when you said that about Marvin Bartley. I actually wasn't even aware of that comment. It kind of struck me because you look at the youth academy and you think the likes of Armstrong, Ogleflex, Carmoko Dembele, the one that springs out the mind, and then they recently just let a wee lad go back to America, Cameron Harper. He went back to the American leagues. It just almost seems to me that Celtic's just been ripped to the bare bone. Ross, in terms of the youth academy, do you think that's important going forward, especially as Natasha said, the transfer market's changing. The Brexit now means you have to have points for players coming in, especially through that system that David Webb touched on. Where do you think it's going to go from here, Ross?
Well, I mean, the youth academy is always important. It doesn't matter what's happening, but I mean, as Natasha said, there isn't a. I mean, we looked at the games where we were down to the bare bones. And we had to bring the young guys in, and there didn't look any of them were ready. I mean, that Cameron Harper was it him that went back to America? Did you say?
Yeah.
I mean, like people are worried, like thinking, "Oh, why is he leaving?" But I mean, maybe he's went back to America for family reasons because he is American, is he not?
Yeah.
Aye. But I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know a lot about Celtic's youth system. I've no really took much notice of it because I'm always the heathen now, but which is quite bad. But definitely the youth is important, but possibly with this Fergal Harkins coming in, or if he comes in, he could help with that because he's been dealing with youth for so long at Man City. But other than that, I'm no too clued up in the youth system, to be honest with you.
I think, Ross, that's a quite telling sign that you don't know about them. The youth aren't making any noise. I mean, that's if the youth want you to know, if there's players coming through there, you'll see the likes of Kieran Tierney, Cal McGregor. You'll see them and take notice, but there's none of that. And you touched upon Stephen Welsh, Natasha. I'm glad as well because looking forward to the future. It could be him and Julian at the back. You never know. I mean, as if we don't strengthen. But the recruitment policy to me is key. As you said, we have no time for them to have 3 years of success and them get in front. Because as Russell Boyce rightly said, they would not surrender, quit. Sorry about the pun, but it's true. They would put their foot in the gas and they wouldn't care about what Celtic's doing. And it looks from us Celtic fans, Celtic are doing all they can to try and help them. It's almost like, why are you doing this? Just keep your foot in the gas and go forward and keep going forward because this 10 in a row should have happened and we all know it should have happened. We've went into the season and the confidence has been too high. The players have been too arrogant. The likes of Ryan Christie, his head's huge. The likes of Edward, who's only turned up for 6 or 7 games, and the rest of them he couldn't care less. Let's be honest.
But I mean, they did like invest in the squad last summer, but the recruitment's they've just got it so wrong. The goalie's a prime example of that. It wasn't like I can't say I have to defend them slightly because they did spend a bit of money to try and get the 10. I don't think they just thought, oh, we've got enough here. Because they brought in, what was it, Barkas? I know they brought in Ayeti. They probably should have brought in Tony. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. We all know that beforehand, obviously, that Tony was a better player than Ayeti, but you didn't know that Ayeti was not going to work out. You didn't know that Barkas wasn't going to work out. They spent, what was it, best part of 6 million in Barkas. So they did invest in the squad, but it's just not worked out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think when you look at it, they did ask, they did do what the fans wanted, and on paper there were so many right decisions. We kept, our best assets. We kept Edward, we kept Ayer, we kept Christie, even in Cham. We got to keep all them, and then we strengthened in the areas that we were looking to. We brought in a left back from Milan and Diego Laxalt. We brought in a £5 million goalkeeper. We brought in Shane Duffy, who was meant to shore up the defence. On paper, this was what the fans were looking for. And every single decision seems to have been wrong. The players who wanted away, we should have let them go. The people we signed were the wrong choices. So I think, just a bit of mismanagement and bad decision making at all levels when we should have been making 150% certain that this league was in the bag. We took risks and they didn't pay off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, it's almost like, you look back. Fair enough, Ross. You look back in the summer transfer window and we spent the upwards of £20 million, but you also have to remember as well and factor in Rangers outspent us in the previous 4 windows. This is a team who's lost over £80 million in the 8 years they've been in the SPFL, and you're wondering how the hell can they do that? But touching upon the likes of Shane Duffy, the likes of Barkas, I personally still think there's a keeper in Barkas. I think it was more coaching. That he wasn't used to that kind of management. I can hear you sniggering, Ross, but I still think
it was a sharp intake breath.
I still think there's a keeper in there, and also if you look at Eddie before he went to West Ham, he was banging them in for Basel, like proper. Him and El Nusi had such a partnership at FC Basel, and you almost have to look at it as well from the outside perspective. Yes, these players haven't played well, but do they fit the style that Celtic are playing? You would hardly come up with any ideas. Like Ayeti's a poacher. Celtic don't play like that. They don't whip the ball into the box. They play in front of the strikers, play at the feet. What do you think, Natasha, in terms of like Barkas and Ayeti? Do they have futures at Celtic?
I think we certainly need to see more of them. And the interesting question really there is who's deciding whether they have a future at Celtic? Because we don't know who's going to be in charge of them next season. For me, I would like to see Barkas get a run of games. Let's assess whether there's a player there or not. If not, we have to cut our losses. And similarly with Ayeti and Klimala as well. Let's see them. Let's use the rest of the season to see if there's anything there worth building on or trying to enhance and develop for next season. And if not, then cut your losses in the summer. But again, the issue is who is making that decision, because a manager, head coach or director of football who comes in over the next couple of weeks might really want to keep someone like Ayeti, or alternatively, he might not be their sort of player at all. So I think they'll probably all be kept around until we've got a new team in place who want to have a look at them. So yeah, I think all are worth having another look at for me. I agree with you on Barkas. I don't think he loses all his ability overnight. I'm not sure about the coaching. Stevie Woods is renowned for being such a good goalkeeping coach, and we've produced and developed some great goalkeepers over the years. And I'm not sure why it's not working with Barkas. But they'll see him every day in training. If they think there really is nothing there, then we might already have made the decision to cut our losses in the summer and focus on getting a new keeper.
Yeah, but you also have to ask yourself as well, who's going to buy these players? Do you know what I mean? If they can't make it in the so-called lower league of the SPL, the kind of reputation the SPL has for Europe, who's going to buy them? Who's going to take the chance again to give Celtic a couple of £1 million for Ayeti and then give them a couple of £1 million for Barkas? They're going to lose. They're going to lose out on the money they spent. And I also think what was quite clear. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I think Ayeti, there's a player there, and you can see it sometimes.
Absolutely.
When he played up front against Lille in the Europa League game, he looked class. He held the ball up well. He was linking the play. He was playing up front by himself, but he always had the support from the fullbacks and the midfield running on to him. That's perfect for him. Back to goal, turn and hit a shot. I mean, go ahead, Ross.
No, go on. And I was just going to say, I think he's the type of player that maybe needs to be loved, and he's not had a lot of that off of Lennon because he's in. I know he was injured in that as well, but he's in the team. He looks like the type of player that maybe needs to be loved and like hand the shoulder kind of thing. Always lets you know that he's wanted.
Which is exactly why we can't. Which is exactly why we can't employ a manager like Roy Keane. I mean, that just screams, no, do not do that. Because the likes of Ayeti, the likes of Christie, as Natasha said, they're a modern player. They like to go home and go on Instagram and post photos up of them eating dinner. So that's the type of thing a modern day footballer does. And personally for me, I still think there's a player in Klimala. He gives you all the effort in the world. And granted, yes, his first touch is like a tackle sometimes, but he gives you... It gives you a bit of effort, a bit of graft up front. Now, there was something I want to touch upon quickly with you. I put on Instagram, which got quite a few comments anyway. Natasha, I'll go to you first. Lee Griffiths. Now, he's a man that divides Celtic fans more so now because of what's happened in terms of not being fit. We all know he's fought mental health off, and that's brilliant. He's got better. He's recovered from that, but again, he's still not fit and available for selection. And if he is, he's not 100% match fit. Do you think Lee Griffiths, this is his last season at Celtic Football Club, Natasha?
I have to say yes, and I've been very supportive of Griffiths over the years. I have a great deal of sympathy for him and a great deal of respect for what he's managed to overcome. And saying that, I'm also frustrated with him that he was unable to be fit at the start of the season, and he's still not fit now. We're in March, and he's still not managed to get himself fit all season. And for me, he's cost us. He's cost the club. If we had a fully fit, firing on all cylinders, Lee Griffiths from the start of the season, partnering Edward up front, like we saw worked so well for all of last year, or at least parts of last season. I think it could have been the difference between drawing games or losing games and winning games. Because Griffiths scores goals and he's a great partner for Edward, but only when he's fully fit and committed. And he's not been that this season. And I think he's really cost the club, and that's frustrating to me. And I think a new manager, a new coach, a new director of football coming in is not going to be inclined to keep Griffiths around for any longer. So for me, I think he is probably likely to be on the way out.
Yeah. I mean, what about you, Ross? What's your opinion on the Magic Man Lee Griffiths?
I mean, well, first of all, can I just say I lost my train of thought there because I had my power went out in my house and I was sitting in darkness. But we're all right now, we're good. But Griffiths, I've said in a previous podcast that I think it probably will be time up from him. As Natasha said, it's March now and he's still not fit. The Scotland squad's been announced. We're on the verge of our first major international tournament in 20 odd years, and Lee Griffiths still can't get himself fit. I mean, that is like the pinnacle. I know he's playing for Celtic, but that is the pinnacle of a player's career. Surely that would be incentive enough, if nothing else, to get yourself fit, and he's not done it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just for me, I think his head's gone. He's not interested in football anymore. And if he wants to, he could probably still make a living at like a Hibs or something like that. And he's got all the ability in the world. It's so frustrating. I was going to compare him to Derek Riordan there. He's probably better than him, but it's that kind of idea where like they're a great player, but they're just basically total Neds that just can't get their head down. And it's so frustrating to see. But I think it probably will be his last season. I don't think whoever comes in is going to look at him and think, am I going to have this guy? He's taking a wage out of the club every month for basically doing nothing. He's affecting nothing. He's helping the club in no way whatsoever by taking money out of it every month. Yeah.
I mean, how amazing would it be to sit basically on your ass and get paid upwards of 20 grand a month? You'd be loving it, wouldn't you? That's everyone's dream. And I'm not disrespecting Lee Griffiths. I know there's people who listen who are big Lee Griffiths fans. We all are. We all supported him through his mental health illness, and we're all really glad that he.
Can I just touch on that, by the way? I know he's obviously been through whatever it is, and he's got mental health. So I'm not dissing him in any way whatsoever for that, because it's. Do you know what I mean? I've never experienced it myself, but it's obviously not great. But just in a football aspect, I'm just commenting on a football aspect, and that's how I feel. But the other side of it, who knows what's going on there, and I would never ever diss him for that. No way. Do you know what I mean? Just want to make that point clear.
No, that's 100%. Russ, I think we're all on the same page in that one. That's exactly what I was about to say. We all support him. I mean, he's been brilliant over the years at Celtic. He was 40 goals on a Ronnie Delia season, which was amazing. He was firing. But unfortunately, the last couple of years for Celtic and him, it hasn't worked out. And as you said, he's getting a wage for doing effectively nothing. Yes, he probably goes to training and does a bit there, but he's gone home after 3 hours and he's not really contributing on the football pitch. And for me personally, I think it's his last season. I thought his last season would be last season, if you know what I mean, because I think we need a striker in to come in and just take the club by storm, get on the pitch, score goals, especially now if Edward's going to leave. We need a ready-made replacement. We can't be going down the route of relying on Griffiths if he's not fit, and then we'll have question marks still over Yeti and Kamala. But what I'm going to do now, folks, I'm going to move on to the nitty-gritty side of things, and we'll look ahead towards the Glasgow Derby side of things. Now, Natasha, we've seen over the recent, week and a half, I'd say now, that the government over in Scotland's getting involved in football quite a lot. Sturgeon's putting out statements, name checking Celtic. Well, now it's cleared up. Apparently, Celtic said it's completely refuted the statement, and so there's no way saying that Celtic fans were involved in the chaos that the Rangers fans caused in George Square outside Ibrox. But what is your feeling in the total thing of government getting involved in football?
For me, the the frustrating element of the government getting involved is the differential treatment on a number of levels. You know, for example, we look back on the trip to Dubai. I want to know why the government were so quick to condemn what was a legal trip to Dubai. I mean, we can debate whether morally it was right or wrong, but it was a legal permitted trip to Dubai. They were very quick to condemn that, but they were very slow to condemn the scenes we saw over a couple of weekends ago at Ibrox and at George Square. You know, and then you look at other incidents, you know, when we see cars full of players, managers, when we have to take 6 buses to Dingwall. You know, let's go back further, why was Christie out for 2 games for playing the PlayStation with Armstrong? And then earlier in the season, Helander tested positively for COVID, trained with his teammates, but that wasn't deemed a close contact. You know, it's the inconsistencies for me, and there's various questions that I want the club to be asking in this regard. And if they're dealing with it behind the scenes, then that's absolutely fine. But I do have to say the differential treatment is there, and this incident over the last couple of weeks has just, you know, exemplified that. You know, we're hearing reports of the police turning up at Celtic fans' doors to reiterate the stay-at-home message ahead of the weekend. And, you know, well, I fully support that message. You know, why was the same not done 2 weekends ago when we were subject to some of the worst COVID breaches, you know, we've seen in the country? You know, had the government and the media and the police acted and condemned those actions on the Saturday, we wouldn't have seen the scenes we did on the Sunday. And as for, you know, them trying to bring in what they call old firm angle into it, I think Celtic were quite right to absolutely refute that. And the tweet served its purpose in that extent, because this was not a Celtic and Rangers issue. It was not a Glasgow issue. It was just a Rangers issue. And we don't want to be tarnished with that brush.
Yep. Yeah, I think, Natasha, what we're seeing as well, especially over here in Ireland, I'm up in the north, and what I seen was absolutely mad. I sent the video into our group chat. Basically, there was Rangers fans in the Shankill area where I live, partying, setting off flares, and the local news reporter said, it's okay, they were all in their own bubbles in their own cars. I mean, come on. I've never seen more Bass commentating in my whole life. I think I sent you it as well, didn't I, on Twitter? You seen that? I mean, it's almost like Celtic do something wrong, and look, I'm going to reiterate the point. I'm not moaning. I'm getting that out there. I just want to know why we're getting treated different. I'm seeing it with my own eyes. Everyone can see it. Even other clubs can see it. Why is Celtic and other clubs being treated so different from the club across the city? Ross, do you think as well, now this is my personal opinion, I think Celtic have been far too quiet on the whole issue. And yes, they put out the tweet and a whole lot of support got behind it, me, myself included. But looking back on it again, it's just a play up to the fans. Yes, it does mean well. I mean, it's brilliant. It was well done. It was a cutthroat statement towards the other half of the city. But you almost look at it, Celtic have just stayed quiet while your man Douglas Park writes paragraphs about us, name checks us and everything, and they come back with that. What's your feeling towards the whole government issue?
I mean, ordinarily, for me, the government have no place in football, but circumstances are now, obviously, they've got no choice to come into it. But as regards Celtic, I think they've took the glaring bias, like lying down. The only person, and he does it time and time again, and he's away now, is Neil Lennon. He defends the club time and time again, and everybody slated him for that so-called outburst after Dubai, that interview when he said it was hypocrisy. And I agreed with him at the time, and since then, the events that have happened have proved him right, and he's the only one that defends Celtic time and time again with total disregard of what the repercussions might be for him. And for that, I commend Neil Lennon. But I just think there's been total bias, and I really hope that the government, when things are back to normal and football's back to normal, hopefully it's sooner rather than later, I just think the government should take a step back and give Rangers the opportunity of trying to win the league by themselves. It's just I feel I'm just really, really like so annoyed with the bias that I don't know how anybody, even I know how Rangers fans can say it's not being biased because they're not going to turn around and say that, but it's been so obvious. Like, you've all made the points. I'll not go over them again. That it's just so frustrating, and it's a subject that really grinds on me at the moment. To be honest with you.
I mean, what was seen as well, Natasha and Ross, is the Scally's son. I mean, it's reported that over 50 Rangers fans that took part in that have tested positive for coronavirus, and that just points that the whole their blatant lack of stay-at-home message didn't resonate with the fans. They didn't care. The Rangers players were hanging out of the Ibrox window and partying with them and pouring champagne out the window, and the manager done it too. And there was also footage of Stephen Gerrard in his car filming his way into the Ibrox. I mean, come on.
But in Gerrard's defence, the tune was an absolute banger.
Well,
no, but seriously, it was seriously though. But Neil Lennon would have got totally condemned for that if Celtic were going to win 10 in a row, and he drove in with the music playing, and somebody else was videoing that. If he'd done that, he would be he'd be in the jail. Never mind hold over the calls. He'd be in the jail.
You're right. It's the double standard. It's so frustrating. Like, they put out a stay-at-home message now, and but they didn't. You know, before Saturday, Sunday, a couple of weeks ago, there wasn't that stay-at-home message. You know, the actions you've just talked about, Stephen, they were encouraging the celebrations. They were encouraging the fans to be there. So I think it's a bit rich for them to come out now and say that they did everything they could, because that's absolute nonsense.
Yeah, I think that brings me on nicely to my next point, Natasha. Good cue up there. Thanks for that. But basically, the way I see it as well, it almost smacks of, again, hypocrisy. I can't say that word again. That's me gone for words. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. It's just like Celtic fans do one thing, they get punished. Celtic go to Dubai, even though it was rubber stamp. They get vilified in the media and the government for weeks and weeks. The players basically go into hiding for 2 weeks, and then you look across the city. And yes, what was the quote I seen someone put up? They deserve a party. We all deserve a party. We all deserve to go out and get drunk and rack up streets. But you don't see us freaking outside and drinking whatever we're drinking and going mad and singing songs. And that's not the way it should be at the moment. And everyone wants to know that. Which brings me on to the point of the stay-at-home message from both captains, managers of the club, John Kennedy and things. Natasha, where do you stand on the whole stay-at-home message? Yes, we agree with it, but in terms of what they're trying to portray now, do you think it's kind of a bit lost since what happened last week?
My concern is that, you know, there wasn't adequate or appropriate action taken last week on the Rangers fans at George Square at Ibrox. So the police lose some of their authority there and asking for the same to be done again this weekend. I guess all we can do on podcasts and on our own pages is to encourage the stay-at-home message. You know, for me, I think large gatherings like we saw in George Square are, you know, a slap in the face to everyone who's obeyed the rules for over a year, everyone who's working tirelessly for the NHS. You don't need to gather like that to celebrate a football result at a time like this when everyone's making so many sacrifices. So for me, all I can do is just reiterate the stay-at-home message and hope that people adhere to it. Yeah,
I mean, another thing as well, one of our podcasters, Anthony Dunn, he actually works for the NHS, and he was quite passionate about this subject, and I think he quite rightly so. As you said, it's a slap in the face to everyone who's obeyed the rules, so to speak, who does what they're told, stay at home, keep your social distancing. And then you see the large groups in George Square, large groups outside their training ground, which, by the way, again, the Rangers players were partying with the fans, but that's not punished. But Ross, where do you stand on the whole stay-at-home thing? Are you the same kind of vibe as Natasha?
No, I think everybody should go down to the stadium and just go. No, I'm only joking. No, absolutely. Just to reiterate everything that Kennedy and guys in the previous podcast have said, I mean, just don't go. It's plain and simple. Then go down, and if the Rangers fans want to go down, then fine, go down, do what you want to do, wreck what you want to wreck. The club will foot the bill, and that's it. And Celtic fans, stay away. Our reputation will not be tarnished if you stay away, and that's all I can really say. But to be honest with you, I think that I'm going to put my faith in both sets of fans. I think probably, obviously, you'll get the odd straggler nut job, but I think the majority will stay away after what they seen last week. I think they will stay away, and anybody that is there will be minute and it'll be dispersed quickly. But I mean, obviously, after the obligatory selfies with the Rangers fans, but other than that, I think for the most part, most people will stay away, and you'll get the few stragglers. That's my hope anyway. But
Yeah.
who knows?
There's rumours, Ross, that you're actually going down on Saturday to get your space early. I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah.
I'm actually coming for there the now.
But in terms of the moving on now to the whole Guard of Honour argument, I've seen lots of Celtic pages basically saying that's a no-go. And another man who came on the scene talking about this was our former manager, Brendan Rodgers. Now, from what I can see, this has not gone down well. And every page I've looked at it, it's just comments of him being basically an arsehole and saying Celtic should have class and humility. But I can kind of see where he's coming from. Just do it. Just that. It'll probably annoy them more, but I don't know. But where do you think? Where do you stand on this whole Guard of Honour argument, Natasha?
Oh, it's difficult, isn't it? For me, let's think back to 2019 when Gerrard, emphatically refused to give Celtic a Guard of Honour. And for me, in that way, it could set a precedent. Why on earth should we show them respect when they refuse to show the same for us? They couldn't put their bitterness aside at watching us win 8 in a row as it was then. So why should we do similar for them? But on the same hand, I have to sort of put that to one side and think we pride ourselves on having our own standards. We can take the high road if they've taken the low road. So I would get why the club would do it, and I get Rodgers' comments. For me, I think he's a bit rich talking about, humility and class, walking out on us halfway through a season and trying to take our whole backroom staff with them. So it's a bit rich coming from him. But in saying that, I do get his point. If the club do it, I'll understand why. If it was my choice, I have to say I would say that I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, Ross, where are you standing on it?
Personally, I wouldn't do it. Give them nothing. But I mean, I get the other side of it, where as Natasha said, like if we did do it, we would look like the bigger person, if you like. But personally, myself, the devil in me says, nah, fuck them. But
I was hoping at least one of you would say yes, but I'll play I'll play the impartial side of this. I can see it from yes. Celtic, as you said, Natasha, that they have their own standards and they should do it because it shows we're a bigger club, which we are, by the way. There's no doubt about that. I mean, that club there is only 9 or 8 years old. It's only in existence. But you also have to look at it as well. I get what you're saying, Ross. I'm the type of guy who wants to fight fire with fire and just be like, no, not getting nothing of it. It's not to get the change room, change outside. That's the way I'd be. But I don't. I'm going to remain on the side of it because there's both sides of the argument which I can understand, I can take. Yes, be the bigger man, be the bigger person, do the Guard of Honour, just get on with it and hopefully beat them in the game. And on the other hand, nah, as you said, just let them do their thing. And if it happens in terms of we don't do it and we get vilified, at least we've kind of stuck to the same narrative. And I hope if that does happen, Celtic come out and defend themselves. We've seen far too often where Celtic have let things slide, especially when it comes to the other half across the city. And I don't think that's an option. If they're going to do the Guard of Honour, I would expect them to come out and say before the game. I think that's just normal. And maybe in Friday's press conference, we'll probably find out more. And that's even if the game's going ahead. But looking ahead to the actual game and the way it's going to play out, Natasha, what type of game are you expecting? Now, I did hear you earlier on say that you would kind of go for your best players and go for it that way. But I kind of have to disagree. The only reason why is because these best players have been absolutely shite for us all season, and there's no evidence to say that they're going to come and fucking be amazing and win 5 or 6-0 like we know they're capable of. But where do you stand on the whole game? What way do you see it playing out, Natasha?
I mean, I made that comment earlier on ACSOM because there's so much at stake here for us. It's a Glasgow Derby game, but it's not a dead rubber, even though the league is gone. I want to see us line up as strong as possible to try and stop their invincible league season and get rid of any notion that they compare to Rodgers' season of invincibles. I don't think the two teams are compatible in the slightest. I think Rodgers' invincible team far eclipses what we're seeing right now from Rangers. I don't think we'll see too many changes. I think they'll line up very similarly to what we have seen, maybe against Dundee United just there. And do you know, I will totally agree with you. Edouard has not been firing on all cylinders. He's not offered anything. He looks lethargic and lazy. But if I have to put money on someone popping up to score a goal, it's going to be Edward. So I do want to see him start, ahead of Ayeti or Klimala. And I think, to be honest, the rest of the team almost picks itself. There's maybe a couple of decisions in the middle of the park around Sorrow, Turnbull, Brown, Rogic, Christie, how we're going to shoehorn all them in. But I think really that's the only decisions we've got to make. And otherwise, it picks itself, really, especially the back line. I can't see him doing anything other than Kenny, Welsh, Ayer, and Laxalt. But we'll see.
I mean, in terms of myself, now, I don't know how this is going to go down, but the Celtic team at the minute absolutely bores me. It just bores me. There's no excitement no more. And I can't wait that this season's over. And I totally agree with you. This Glasgow Derby is not meaningless in the slightest. I want us to win, and I hope we win well. But it comes back to my point. It comes back to my point, Ross. These players that we've so-called tried and tested and trusted players have continuously let Celtic Football Club down this season over and over and over again. Now, I know this is the Glasgow Derby and it's against our biggest rivals, right? But the way I'm looking at it is, should we not be giving players a chance who's going to be there next season to bed them into the squad? What way are you siding with this one, Ross?
Well, the question is, what players are going to be there next season? You don't know. We don't even know what manager's going to be there, never mind players. So, I mean, personally, I side with Natasha. I would play the strongest team available, whether it's guys like Christie who have at times let us down, but also at times in big games, like say at Hampden, he hasn't let us down. He's come up with big moments. You've got to go with guys like Christie. I would play Turnbull, but I go with your on paper best available team against Rangers. And as Natasha said, we have to stop this so-called invincible season sooner rather than later. And if that's Sunday, then all the better. And if it's no Sunday, then we have to do it in the final game at Ibrox against them. But it's going to be a tall ask because Celtic are, as you say, playing absolutely rotten now. They're so bad to watch. It's boring. But I mean, it's been shown previously. Do we turn to guys that are? I know there were a lot of youngsters in the team, but they're guys that's probably got to be there next year. You can't turn to youngsters in this game. You just have to go and play your best team and try and win the game.
Where I'm coming from is the side of, would you play Barkas over Bain? Personally,
No,
yes, I would.
Bain.
No.
I'll play Bain.
Oh, come on, guys!
I play Bain as well.
But the way I'm looking at it, right? Like, hear me out. I know this is unpopular, and I'm going to get stick for it. But Bain for me is crap. Yes, he's a good shot stopper. I get that, and I totally understand. He can pass the ball out from the back. But we need to give the players like Barkas, like of Ayeti, time to come into the squad and see what they're about. Otherwise, they're going to face the same. No, but they're going to face the same scenario.
This weekend.
No, this weekend. No,
but they're going to they're going to face the same scenario next season. Don't be scared to throw them into these games. This is what Celtic's about. These big games, these big derby games.
Play them against the other teams in the final 5 games of the season. Don't play them in this game. Play the guys that are. I was going to say tried and tested, and they are tried and tested, but they've been way below par this season. But I don't care if they're going to be there next season or no. The best team on paper is the team you have to play. For me, sorry if that.
And the best team on the best team on paper has been crap. Do you know what I mean? So the paper needs to be ripped up and threw in the bin.
You make a good point.
Personally, I believe that they should start with Forrest and Elyounoussi on the wings. I want to be better width in the team because this Diamonds, it's just kind of a road to nowhere now. Yes, it was good the first 6 games I played it, but now teams are just sitting back on the edge of the day, taking the ball.
I would tend to agree with that. I would like to see more width in the team, and there is now that Forrest is back, but he's not 100% fit, obviously. But I can see what you're saying. I would like to see that width in the team because that's what we've been lacking. Because everything's in front of the teams. I know Rangers won't defend as much as other teams, but every player in that diamond, apart from Scott Brown, all want to come short. Edward wants to come short. Everybody knows it. It's all in front. The team. You're not taking guys. I've said it in a previous podcast. You're not taking guys like defenders into positions that they don't want to be. So I would I probably would play Forrest and Elyounoussi. I agree with that.
And I know I'm going.
Forrest is.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right there.
Aye. If he's ready, then aye, absolutely.
I know they played a bounce game against Motherwell, won 5-0 during the week, so I think he played 90 minutes in that game. So maybe that's a good sign that he's fit and firing, or at least up there anyway with fitness. The reason why I said it, yeah, he played the full 90 against in the bounce game. The reason why I said it, Natasha, and I heard you blatantly say you want Bain playing on goals and you want the best players, but I just want to play a wee bit of the side of, yes, these players are tried and tested. Yes, they cost money, but they haven't delivered. I want to know why, from your point of view, you think that they're going to deliver against Rangers on Sunday. Yes, they played well in January for the first 60 or so minutes, but then obviously what happened after that's pretty obvious. But what makes you think that these players are going to do the job for us?
I can't say I have any confidence in them doing the job. I would still say, I have more confidence in Bain at this moment than I do in Barkas, and I have almost no confidence in Bain, so that must say what I feel about Barkas. But I think for a goalkeeper, if we're looking at that position, we just need continuity. You're not going to drop in a new goalkeeper for a Glasgow Derby, although we did really throw Connor Hazard into a similar sire. But for me, it's about continuity, and Bain's been the one that's playing. He has to start this game. If Forrest is fit enough, maybe will he be match fit? Unlikely. Can he maybe more impactful as a sub in around 60th minute? But I think we've got to go with continuity and hope that Kennedy's has 2 weeks to work with them, drill something new into them, and see how it goes. I like I said, I don't have a great deal of confidence. I'd really like them to show us something different that they showed us for the rest of the season. And what better prep has he had than 2 weeks to really work with the team and have almost a full squad available to him? So it'll be interesting, but from a continuity perspective, I think it'll be a similar squad we see.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it's pretty obvious both of you are against me at this point, so we'll quickly move on, okay? So, moving on to the last couple of segments of the show, touched upon on their topic list yesterday. I would like to know what's one of your favourite moments from the previous Old Firm games, either in the recent years or years gone past when the old club was up and going. I'll go to you, Natasha, first. What sticks out in your mind when you think of a Glasgow Derby?
See when you posed this question to me earlier in the week, it's hard to pick a game, never mind a moment we've had, and that's one thing we shouldn't forget, is we've had some incredible memories over the last few years, especially in some of these derby games. So it's hard to narrow it down to a game. But I'm going to go back to the 11th of March 2018 and go for the 3-2 game at Ibrox. To pick a moment, there's a couple of moments in that game for me. That Rogic goal was absolutely beautiful, but for me, the best moment was the Dembele goal, and really, that absolute belter of a pass from Scott Brown. The cheer goes up as Brown gets taken out off the ball, only for them to realise that he's played in a perfectly weighted pass to Dembele, who slots it past the keeper, and we get that immortal "What's the goalie doing?" commentary to come with it. And getting that in just before half time, and then the half time scenes in the Broomloan and the full time scenes there from after we won 3-2 with 10 men that eventually got us thrown out the Broomloan forever by the looks of it. But, so for me, that game, but in particular that moment, that pass from Brown, that goal from Dembele was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, what was the famous "What's the goalie doing?" Tom? That one.
Lovely. Yeah, that's the one. Can listen to that again and again.
That one was fantastic. I'll go to yourself, Ross. What sticks out for you when you think of the Glasgow Derby games?
I mean, obviously, in recent times with the new against the new Rangers, we've had some great moments. Drubbins, the policeman's hat with Lustig and all that, great moments. But for me, probably go back to 2008. I think it was when we beat them 2-1 at Celtic Park, and Jan Vennegoor of Esslink scored the header in the last minute, and it completely changed the complexion and allowed us basically go on and win that title. It was absolutely massive. I didn't actually I wasn't at the game that night, but I broke a wall light in the pub with my head, so that just shows you how high I jumped, because I'm a pretty wee guy. But it was for me, that just sticks in the memory, and it always will. It was just that relief. It was like, are we going to do it? If we don't win this game, it's gone. It's totally gone. And then bang, right at the last minute, and it just killed them, and it just gave us the impetus to go and win that title.
Yeah, I mean,
and it was the Tommy Burns title as well, so it was even more special.
Big Jan van der Hasling was amazing. He's a powerhouse of a striker. I think that's something we actually missed, especially in the modern day. He was just up there getting his head on the balls. But for me, before we move on, I'm going to go more recent. The one player that sticks out to me when I think of more recent Glasgow derbies has to be Moussa Dembele. We can't forget this guy. That time when Celtic had the flag of war out in the corner, he put Senderos on his arse and he totally destroyed Rangers that day. That for me, that's what we need to get back to. That's where we need to go, because we are head and shoulders above them in every aspect of our club, or at least we should be. And I hope next season is a catapult where we're like, we're going to take this by the horns again and go on a title run, and hopefully last us for years and years. As Natasha rightly touched upon, we can't afford the pendulum to swing in their direction for 3 or 4 years. We need to come back with a vengeance next season and win the league at least, and the trophies as well, because we're a winning club. It means so much to everybody, all the fans out there that love Celtic Football Club, and we all of us who are Celtic fans think that Celtic Football Club is the greatest club in the world. And personally, I believe that because I love Celtic with all my heart. But we'll move on to the quiz side of things. I know I had a wee bit of a passionate, I know I had a wee bit of a passionate rant there, but I wanted to get that out.
I know.
I'll move on to the quiz side of things, and it's basically, Natasha, there's 5 questions. First to answer to 3. First to 5 or whatever, whoever gets it wins it. The prize is nothing, it's just your pride, okay, Natasha?
Got it.
Okay, so no problem. I'll get the first question now. At the end of October and the start of November, Celtic played successive home games against Kilmarnock, Juventus and Rangers. One man scored in all 3. This is from the 2001-2002 season. Who was it? It was a centre-back.
Valharn?
Yeah.
No, Vega.
No, you got it.
Valharn.
Well played.
Well played. He's definitely got Google open there. He has my voice pen in the background. That's one to Ross. No worries. In Dr. Joseph Fangloss's first domestic match, who scored a hat-trick?
Moravcik.
Nope. Tasha, over to you. Scottish.
That makes it harder.
Can I come in again?
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Go on, Ross.
Virtual?
No.
No.
One more crack at it. One more crack. Come on, what is?
Oh, I've not got a clue.
Right, time's up. Craig Burley.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Which year did Celtic make it to their second European Cup final?
71? 72?
Nope. Natasha?
I think it was later than that. 822.
No, right. We won the European Cup 67. We got to another final quite close to that.
68, 69, yeah. You're right. It was after.
No.
What's close
1970. I'll give that to Ross because he got it in before.
We're not good under pressure, Ross.
I was close. I said
Henrik,
71.
Yeah, fair.
Henrik Larsson scored his 100th league goal for Celtic against which club?
In Fairmont.
Nope. Natasha, over to you.
Mm.
They've got a plastic pitch in the SPFL at the moment.
Livingston.
Yes. Nice. Right, let me see. During the 01-02 season, one Celt scored twice at Ibrox. Who was it?
Moravcik.
Nope. Natasha?
Sutton.
No. He went to Aston Villa after Celtic.
Maloney.
No, he went to Aston Villa after. Yeah. So, Ross, you get it this week. Unlucky.
Well done, Ross.
Unlucky.
I don't think either of us deserved
Natasha.
it, to be honest. I'm not sure either of us deserved it on that showing, but well done, Ross.
No, we were absolutely shameful there. We were just throwing names out.
Every time we have this quiz, I'm questioning, do the guests actually support Celtic? I mean, John's lost 3 in a row. He's relegated to hosting, the recording the show now. But yeah, it was a good effort from both of you. And Natasha, thanks for coming on to the show, and no doubt we'll have you on the future again. You've been a fantastic guest. Have you enjoyed your time on the show?
I absolutely have. Yeah, I would love to come back. I'll have another go at that quiz next time. But no, I've enjoyed that, guys. That was great.
I think we'll both have another go at that quiz.
It was fantastic having you on, Natasha. You brought some valuable points and insight in the goings on at Celtic Football Club. And Ross, yourself, thanks for coming back on. We'll definitely have you back on. We'll have our old firm extravaganza to look forward to on Friday. And also, Declan McConville, everyone knows from Celtic TV and also appearing on Celtic State of Mind. He's going to be joining us on Friday as well for a part of our 2-part special. So there'll be 2 podcasts out on Friday. Until then, everybody, until we speak again on Friday, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.